Zuby, I guess you feel a little bit vindicated by the release of these truly shocking financial statements this week.
Yeah, I mean, it's appalling. This organization has raised hundreds of millions of dollars over the years. Just in 2021, they received over $90 million in donations. With that, they've bought at least 4 multi-million-dollar properties, including 2 mansions to the tune of over $6 million each. They've invested over $32 million in stocks. They are currently holding about $42 million worth of assets. As you've said, hundreds of thousands and millions have been given to family members, brothers, cousins, and so on. And that's just scratching the surface. And you have to remember, this is money that was raised off of people's goodwill, people who thought that they were donating to help fight against racism, help fight against police brutality, and so on. So to raise money supposedly for a good cause and then to turn around and use that for your own, flying around on private jets and buying mansions it's atrocious.
Well, especially, by the way, seeing that Black Lives Matter as an organisation made out that they were anti-capitalist. That was a big part of their pitch. We don't believe in the capitalist system. Well, Cullors certainly seems to, given she wants to stay at posh Bahamas resorts next to Justin Timberlake. I mean, that's the height of capitalism for me. So was all of the anti-capitalist stuff just a lie too?
Well, it was always a sham. I mean, they posted a video recently of them quaffing champagne at the mansion and talking about this all. And we've seen this with Marxism and communism in the past, right? It's communism for everyone else, and it's the best, greatest form of capitalism and wealth for the people who are at the very top of the pyramid. You've seen this under every communist country that's run. If you look at the dictators and how much wealth that they accumulated and what they did with it, whether you are looking at the Soviet Union or you're looking at China or you're looking at Romania or any other former or current Soviet country, communist country, you see where that money goes. So the entire thing has been a disingenuous sham. And the fact that this was raised off of capitalizing off tragedy and off of other people's goodwill is what makes it so frustrating.
Well, of course, because we have to remember, Zuby, that the vast bulk of this money, I imagine, was raised in the immediate aftermath of the death of George Floyd. Because, of course, this had been an organisation that was around for a while. It had been struggling to get a foothold in the mainstream media, and that tragedy took place, and they seemed to exploit that tragedy.
They did, and they've exploited many tragedies in the past. I think what happened in 2020 is this is the one that really reached people all around the globe. In the USA, this organization has been popping up every couple of years when certain tragic events have happened, and they've used that to raise lots of money. A lot of the money also goes to the Democratic Party. I don't know if everyone knows that. It's a slush fund, essentially, for progressive candidates in the Democratic Party who push for nonsense concepts such as abolishing the police and dismantling the nuclear family.
Critical race there.
The entire thing is a scam from top to bottom. It's just got a good name. It's got a semantically overloaded name. So if you question or criticize Black Lives Matter, people can jump on you and accuse you of being racist or of being a terrible person. If this organization had any other name, it would be very easy for people to see through it for what it is.
So what does this tell us, Zuby? Do we need to all be much more careful before we donate to a good cause? Because we've seen the same thing happen, for example, with the Ukraine war or climate change or whatever the current issue happens to be. How can we trust that our money is going to an organisation that is actually fit for purpose?
It's a great question. I think people need to firstly calm their emotions. I mean, if you go back to that time in 2020, May, June 2020, that was the height of emotionality.
And it was hysteria.
It was hysteria. People were freaking out about the COVID situation. People were then freaking out about, about racism. You saw people toppling statues and burning down cities and going crazy, not just in the USA, but all over the world. So people need to calm their emotions and think rationally and do some investigation, do some research before just clicking on a link and donating to an organization. See what they're about. Go on their website. If you went on the Black Lives Matter official website, you would see on there that their goals were to dismantle capitalism, disrupt the nuclear family, abolish the police, get rid of the entire police force, and other other nonsense, right?
Well, no, and Zuby, I always did. But the problem was folk like me or Nigel Farage who...
Or myself.
Or you, who said, look, we, of course, are against racism like anyone should be against racism, and let the criminal process play out with George Floyd. But this organisation, the Black Lives Matter organisation, is so wrong on so many levels. I mean, people were literally being cancelled as a result of that. I mean, luckily, I was working for a broadcaster at the time that did support freedom of speech, but Nigel Farage, who was working for a broadcaster that didn't support freedom of speech, literally lost his show. Obviously, GBNews wasn't around at the time.
There are couples who broke up over this. One person supporting BLM and the other not. There are people who lost their jobs over this. Nick Buckley in Manchester who was running a charity up there. He got pushed out of...
We're going to have him on about this on Monday night, actually.
Yeah, this thing affected and hurt a lot of people. And also, in the protests and riots that happened in the USA during that summer, over 24 people were killed. So you have to remember, this started from the death of one person, and then it led to 20-something more deaths in the aftermath. And people just glossed over that like it was okay because people are angry at racism. And if you care about black lives, how are you going to go into black neighborhoods and destroy property, burn and loot businesses, and kill people?
But what I think is particularly appalling with BLM and this particular case is the way that they weaponise the use of the term racist. Because one of the journalists who exposed all of these dodgy financial dealings for New York magazine was accused of the organisation of racism. Thankfully for him, he was black. So he was able to say, you're completely crazy. But the point is, what if he wasn't?
Yeah. And, you know, this weaponization of terms like racism, you see the same with sexism and transphobia, and homophobia and so on, white supremacy even. These labels are thrown around with so much reckless abandon, and it dilutes them. I call it label inflation. And it's not a good thing for anybody.
Zuby, so good to have you on the studio tonight. Really appreciate it. Zuby, of course, host of the Real Talk with Zuby podcast. Thank you so much. Of course, both sides of the story here on GB News, and BLM say, despite assertions otherwise, an independent audit has revealed that Black Lives Matter's finances are strong, the organisation is financially sound, and its leaders have been good stewards of the people's donations. The organisation adds that it recognises there is more work to do to increase transparency and has launched a new online transparency and accountability centre where its financial documents are available for public scrutiny. Welcome to the GB News YouTube channel. You can watch us live 24 hours a day, catch up on your favourite shows, and join in the conversation in the comments below.
Don't forget to subscribe and you'll never miss any of our exclusive content.